issue for you, but for whatever reasons that the court and we decide on, it's not an issue that we put before you. Any concern that you would have with leaving an issue like that outside the courtroom and not letting it impact on how you view the case?
I would be okay leaving it outside and not having it impact the case.
Okay. And what about if another juror had a similar concern, where they even brought up in the very jury room that you would be in and said, you know, I don't know exactly what happened with this, but what I do know is that SPD, they, and then just said whatever they said. How would you handle that juror in light of an instruction a judge might give you that you're only supposed to decide the case on what comes from the witness box?
Well, but that's just it, you know. We're only supposed to decide based on what we have heard in that room. And so that would not be part of the decision-making process.
Thanks very much for the time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay seated for just a moment, and counsel, when you're ready, approach the bench. Bobby. Deputy Jarvis will bring you to where you need to go next, and Deputy, if you'll please bring in the next juror. Thank you.
Your Honor, B as in Bravo, 87.
Please be seated. Good afternoon. You're hereby referred to as Juror B87, and the attorneys are going to have an opportunity to ask you some questions about the questionnaire that you filled out on Monday morning. We're going to start with Mr. De La Ronda.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir. We've had an opportunity to read the questionnaire that you filled out on Monday. Okay. And so I want to follow up with some questions regarding the media that you were exposed to, and tell us a little bit about that if you could. So this part of the question is just limited to that. You've got on here that you heard about the struggle between George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin that resulted in Trayvon Martin getting shot and killed. Okay. Your source of that, was that from local news or national news, or both?
Pretty much all local news.
Okay. And local news, TV or newspaper, or both of them?
Both.
Okay. Do you recall what stations, in terms of local stations, you would have listened to and seen some stories about this case?
2, 6, 9, 18, 35, 65.
Okay, so you cover all of them whenever you have.
Those are the channels we watch.
Sure.
That aspect.
And the newspaper, would that have been the Orlando Sentinel?
Correct.
Okay. Your gathering of information on this was it at the beginning stages and throughout? In other words, this happened back in February of last year. Would that have come to your mind or to your attention at that time?
Pretty much throughout, because it's pretty much on all, you know.
Sure.
Seems like it's covered like every other day or at least
Yes,
once
sir.
a week.
Okay. And my question is, was your focus or your attention on it at the very beginning more, and then as time progressed less, or did you follow it throughout?
Probably less going through, you know.
And I apologize, I've already asked you this, but in TV purposes, did you also watch it on national news too?
I wouldn't be able to recall whether, you know, probably flipping
Sure.
through,
Okay.
maybe.
If you would have watched it on national news, do you recall what, was it CNN, ABC, CBS, Fox, or?
It would have to be like Fox or ABC or...
Okay. Aside from reading or watching in terms of hard facts, did you also listen to any of the commentary or read commentary about the case? What I'm talking about, first you hear facts, this happened, and then you hear people talking about what happened and giving their opinions. Were you involved in hearing or reading any of those opinions?
I think it would be pretty hard to avoid.
I agree. Your feeling, looking back now in terms of the coverage by the media of this case, did you feel it was biased or slanted one way or the other at the beginning, and did it continue throughout, or?
I really honestly wouldn't be able to.
Sure. In terms of the people you heard commenting about it, do you recall whether they were local people or national people that were commenting about the case, or both?
Probably both, yeah.
Okay. Right now, in terms of local, do you recall hearing, from memory standpoint, do you recall anything local in terms of who you would have heard from, who you would have seen on TV, in terms of attorneys or commentators about the case? Did any come to mind?
Not really. I mean, it's just so much information.
Sure.
You know, I couldn't really pinpoint any one individual that I was following.
Okay. And how about from a national standpoint? Did you listen to any of the commentators? You know, Fox has certain commentators at night, especially. Did you listen to any of those individuals that have their own shows?
I didn't really say I'd watch an entire show about it. You know, it was just watch news every day.
Sure. Kind of just happen to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sit there and follow the whole thing from top to bottom.
In the process of following the news, did you, as Mr. Zimmerman got arrested, did you follow any court proceedings?
Probably a few here and there, just...
Sometimes they were apparently carried live. Did you watch any of those?
I don't really recall whether they were live. It probably wasn't, because usually I'm at work during the after days.
You didn't pull it up on your computer at work, or? Okay.
I don't have any time at work to pull into any computer work.
I wasn't trying to get you in trouble at work.
No.
As you were going along, at some point, I gather you came to an opinion. You formed an opinion, I should say.
I would say it'd be hard not to form an opinion of some sort on what's going on.
Okay. My question is, because you noted it, and then you went and followed up, and you said that you could put that aside, as I understood this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would have to get all the information, because, what you get from the news and everything else, they have their own opinions as well.
Right, and what I'm trying to, what both sides are trying to ascertain from you is, we're exposed to the media, you listen to it, but you really haven't seen or heard the actual evidence in the courtroom.
Right, yeah. I mean, like I said, of course I have my own opinions, and I think that, anybody who says they don't would be, I mean, you have to have some kind of opinion.
No, I understand. My question is, what I'm trying to probe from you now, sir, is in terms of your opinion, do you recall when you arrived at your opinion, your initial opinion about the case, or your opinion that you still may have, do you recall when you arrived at that opinion?
Probably more in the beginning parts of hearing about it. And,
And what was your opinion, and let me, before you get to the final answer, is that opinion been consistent, or have you changed it as you've gone along?
I guess it might have changed a little bit, but fairly consistent,
Sure. In terms of when you first formed an opinion, what was your opinion?
I mean, it's really hard to... I guess I would need more information to really give an educated answer. I'd hate to, say, anything without having all the information in front of me.
Let me ask you this way. What were your first impressions about the case?
You know, it's a tragedy, you know, either
Okay.
way, you know, both, you know.
You say tragedy both you're talking about the Trayvon Martin and also George Zimmerman?
Either way, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
because, I mean, I don't have all the information. It's a tragedy. The whole thing's a tragedy.
Okay. All right. Did you form some impressions regarding as to what had happened or not happened based on the exposure to the media that you had at the beginning? In other words, what I'm trying to ask you is, did you say, oh, okay, well, this is what happened, A must have happened, and then, B, or did you, based on just your immediate exposure, obviously?
I mean, it just, I don't know. I mean, it just sounded like sounded like a struggle happened, you know,
Okay.
for whatever reason. I don't know what led up to it, you know, or how it or came, you know,
Sure.
led up to it. And
Okay.
I guess
Now-
I would need more information to really.
Sure. Okay. You mentioned that your opinion or impressions changed a little bit, but you're still pretty consistent. If it changed a little bit or modified a little bit, how did it do so?
Maybe in the ways that I would have to have more information to really to give you an educated answer on what I would think.
Okay.
What, you know.
So at some point you formed an opinion or came to some impression about the case, and then you realized that maybe you didn't have all the information? Am I understanding that correct, or?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay. So in terms of those first impressions, what was it other than it being a tragedy for both?
I just, you know, you hear information about either side, you know, and you might hear information about one side one day, and then you hear more information about another side the other day. So it's like,
Yes, sir.
you might have one opinion one day, and then you hear a little more information about the other side, whether that information is 100% true or false. You know, like I said, I mean, you take that information
Sure.
and you would form an opinion whether it's true or false. I mean, you know, you'd have to like get the evidence, I guess, and
All right.
go through the evidence and
So as you were
make an
hearing, I
educated
guess,
guess.
as you were hearing one side, you would kind of lean towards that side, and then you might hear something else and kind of go the other way, or? What I'm trying to find out from you is were you pretty much leaning this way, and then you would, you know, move a little bit?
I don't think I was really on one side or the other. You know, I was just kind of like listening to the information. I don't think I was really leaning fully on one side or the other, just because, you know, I don't know the whole story, and, you know, obviously I don't know of anybody, you know, that was a witness or.
In watching it on TV, did you hear any of, if there were any recordings about the case? In other words, any recordings that occurred during the before or after the shooting?
I think I've heard some recordings at one time, but
Do you recall which recordings there were?
I don't really. I think it was like maybe the 911. Like
Right.
that.
And under the law, I'm not allowed to tell you, oh, this is what happened. I need to find out from you what happened, or what you remember the media telling you what happened. Do you remember when you say 911 to call? Do you remember what the call was about?
You know, I honestly can't remember. I think at a point when it gets so overexposed, I kind of stopped paying attention.
Okay. All right. And did you remember any photographs when you observed, when you were watching the TV or in reading in the newspaper? Do you remember looking at any photographs related to the case?
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember seeing some photographs of
Do you remember
George Zimmerman, what he looked like after the
Okay.
incident.
Tell me, as best you can recall, what that photograph looked like.
I think he might have had some scratches or something from the struggle or whatever.
Okay. Do you remember, when you say scratches, do you remember what part of his body you would have
I
observed?
think it was something maybe on his face or head or forehead
Okay.
or something like that.
What were your impressions regarding that when you observed that?
There was a struggle.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Did you come to any other conclusions as a result of that?
No, I mean, because, like I said, I mean, it all depends on what led up to the situation. I mean, I don't like.
Okay. Any other photographs that you remember now that come to mind regarding the case that the media published?
I mean, obviously, Trayvon Martin, photographs of him.
Okay. Anything else that you can remember about photographs or recordings, if there were any more than the one you mentioned? Okay.
No.
All right. Do you recall in your review of or watching the media, do you recall anybody speaking about the case that was involved in the case?
No.
Okay. As a result of watching it on TV and living in this community, did you do any research on your own to try to find out more information? You know, some people go online and go on Google and, some people become addicted to the case and then they do their own research.
No, I like even with other cases, big cases in the past, it's not something that I really do. I'm not like a...
You're not one of those individuals that gets kind of like focused on a case?
Not really.
All right. Did you have any discussions with anybody at work about the case?
No.
Okay. How about with your family? Did you have any discussions with your family about their opinions about the case one way or the other?
Mm-mm. No.
Okay, all right. Have you had any discussions with friends about the case?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you really haven't talked to anybody about the case at all?
Not really. No, nothing that I really sat down and talked about the case with
You said,
anybody.
well, there was
Something
somebody-
happened, if we
Okay.
saw it in the news, oh, well,
Sure.
wow, look at what happened. Obviously, we might have had some conversations when it first happened,
Right.
but
Okay.
other than that, beyond like when it initially happened, I don't think anything was ever talked about beyond that.
Sure. And my question is, other than just bare minimum somebody was killed, any discussions about opinions about people expressing with friends opinions about what really happened and, the media's...
I would say people had opinions, but I don't think I had any in-depth conversations beyond like, like a passing
Sure.
conversation.
Do you recall the opinions that people expressed to you? Were they more favorable to George Zimmerman or more favorable in terms of George Zimmerman should be charged? Do you recall, if you could think back to the opinions that...
I think I've heard both
Okay,
both
all right.
sides, yeah.
And when you were having discussions with these people, did you express an opinion to them at that time?
I would say that I'm always kind of like wait and see what really happened kind of person,
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that I had any strong opinions either way.
Okay. So on that question that you answered, when you put yes, that you had an opinion, is this what you meant when you've been talking about?
I mean, yeah, I had an opinion on, what as far as like what may have happened, but I don't have an opinion on, but what may have happened is not what
Okay.
would happen.
You don't know what
obviously.
really happened because you weren't there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So in terms of your opinion as to what may have happened, what is that opinion?
I mean, it's, I know that have heard that, he's walking through the neighborhood late at night. He was a security guard. I think I recall them saying that he may have reported it.
Okay.
He was told to not follow, I think.
Okay.
Obviously, that didn't happen, and he you know, maybe thought he was doing the right thing by following, and apparently that, you know, didn't work out, you know,
Okay.
and it turned into a tragedy.
So when you say that your opinion, that's what you were talking about?
That's just what I recall, you know, whether, you know, what led up to the whole situation, getting face to face, I have no idea, you know.
Okay. Under the law, if you're picked as a juror,
Mm-hmm.
You're required to make your decision only based on the facts.
Right.
That actually happened in terms of witness testifying
Mhm.
or physical evidence. And obviously, you're allowed to use your God-given common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to rely also on the instructions that the court will give you the law.
Right.
Do you think you could do that at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would definitely, you know, make the right decision according to the evidence, you know. I mean, obviously, I can't go solely off of what TV gives you. I mean,
Sure.
I would have to see, like I said, I don't know all the evidence and know everything that happened. I just kind of randomly got a lot of stuff day by day, and I might catch it at one part of the newscast. I might catch it at another part, or catch part from one side, part from the other side. So, I mean, all I can do is form what I think may have happened, but that's just a thought. It's not even like fact.
Okay. So if you were to be picked as a juror, could you set aside that, what you just said in terms of your thoughts of what may have happened? Can you set that aside and only make your decision on what actually, the evidence that is presented to you in the court?
Yeah, you would have to.
Okay. You're sitting as a juror, you listen to the evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to make up a fact, so it's not related to this case.
Right.
One of the witnesses says that, and one of the crucial parts of the case is, what car was it? And it's not this case. So
Right.
And the witness says the car was red.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there listening, you go, oh, okay, well, he seems pretty credible. But,
Mhm.
you know, I seem to recall that there was some article in the newspaper that said the car was blue.
Right.
Which would you rely on in making your decision in the case? What you read in the newspaper about the car, or what the witness said about the car?
You'd have to go with the evidence that's in the court,
And why is that?
because you can't rely on the news.
Okay.
I mean,
Would you agree that when you're sitting as a juror, you know, part of being a juror is they just don't put a vacuum and take everything, all you've read or seen about the case out of, in other words, that may pop into your mind as you're sitting there. And the question is...
yeah, of course, you know, of course it would pop in your mind, and then unless somebody else said, no, you know, another witness said, I saw a blue car, then...
You would have to disregard what, in other words, you cannot factor in what the media, what you remember about the media. If it contradicts, or even if it supports it, you have to rely only on what the witness says.
Right.
Can you agree to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I gather in terms of the questions you were asked about whether, you know, the trial in terms of how long it could take, we're estimating now, but potentially also, the judge hasn't made the final decision about whether it's sequestered. I'm assuming you stated you had no conflict regarding that, is that correct? Everybody has a conflict potentially, nobody wants to be involved in such a process, but the question is, would it be an insurmountable hardship?
It would be extremely difficult. You know, I have, you know, 2 kids, and, you know, I share responsibility and, you know, taking care of those 2 kids and
Sure.
getting them from place to place and all that. And I work a full-time job, so yeah, I would be a little bit nervous on the outcome, you know,
Okay.
of all that. Yeah.
Right, sir. Your 2 kids, how old are they?
6 and 10.
Okay. And when you say nervous about the outcome, meaning,
Like where, you know, like
are you talking about...
you know, I have a full-time job,
Right.
and I hold a position at that job,
Yes, sir, and I'm
If
aware of
I'm-
what that is, but
sequestered for 6 weeks, I would be nervous about where my position would be, you know.
and are you concerned that maybe your job won't be there anymore when you get back?
Not there, but I would assume that they would have to figure something out in a 6-week period.
You're
and that
conscious.
would,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
that would just, you know, put me on edge a little bit, absolutely, especially in these times.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I think the court at some point may address that, but under the law, you cannot be, you know, that is not a point of.
I know that I would not lose my job, but I mean, I don't know, I just, between that and having to figure out stuff with the kids, I mean, it would be definitely difficult. I mean,
And the court, all of us, both sides realize that that's a hardship for everybody. But, you know, anyway, I'll leave it at that for right now. We may address it at a later time, but because I think you stated that it would not be an insurmountable, but that's why I was asking you that to make sure. Court may have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Did I ask you in terms of Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, you're not involved in that in terms of?
I'm not really big into, I've never Twittered ever.
Okay.
And Facebook, you know, I do a little bit with family and that's about it, but,
No.
and that's something that really, my wife set up, so I'm very like low, I guess, on the Facebook end of it as far as like I guess the norm for,
All right. Okay, gotcha.
I'm not like big into the social media, I guess.
Apparently in Facebook, when you pull up, sometimes there's news aspects to it, and you read or see anything regarding the case on that.
I don't even get any news because I don't think I've ever got on Facebook on my laptop. I've only done it on my phone, and I don't think they have. I've never seen news clips on my phone.
Sure, okay.
I usually just see like what the people that I talk to, you know, my family, and that's it.
I'm at a loss. My wife and kids do. I don't.
But I think on the full site on Facebook, if you go on a laptop, they do have news clips on the right, but
But you haven't done any of that stuff.
I honestly, I don't even use my laptop. I use my phone for everything.
Okay. Do you, have you by chance visited any websites in support of either side?
No.
Remember coming across any of that? Okay. And regarding, we talked about in terms of the media exposure or media broadcast related to the shooting itself and what happened. Anything else you can recall regarding the media commenting or stuff about the case or anything related to the case that comes to mind right now, other than the shooting itself and?
No.
Okay. Let me have a moment again, Your Honor. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Mr. West?
Afternoon. My name is Don West, and this is Mark O'Meara on behalf of George Zimmerman here today. A couple long days already, I guess.
Yeah.
I know you said very candidly that it would be, with all the media attention this case has gotten, probably impossible not to have any opinion at all. Is that basically what you think?
Yeah, it's been definitely oversaturated, I think. It's similar to other past cases.
Might somewhat sensational as well.
I would say it's, honestly, I think that they take some of these, the news takes some of these big cases and turns them into entertainment, and it shouldn't be.
As a result of that sort of perception of what the media does, what do you do then when you hear something or read something in the news?
You can't take it for face value because you don't know what, you know, I don't know that person or the news people that are, you know, I can't trust what they say, you know, word for word, you know, because things can be changed to sensationalize stuff, you know, I think.
So when you say that you have a view of the case or an opinion on some things, can we be a little more specific? Are you convinced, for example, that there was a struggle of some sort?
Yeah, I believe there was a struggle, it seems like there was.
Do you believe that the struggle went both ways?
Sure, it did go both ways, yeah. I'm sure, one person was struggling with the other person.
What I mean both ways in the sense that based upon the information that you have and the opinions that you've been struggling with, do you believe that both of the individuals were aggressive toward each other?
Possibly. Like I said, I wasn't there, so it would be hard for me to without hearing the whole story and everything, and if there was, it would hard to make a decision on that unless you had hard evidence on which way, like one way or the other.
Oh, sure. And the focus of the questions is only based upon what you know as of right this minute, and trying to get a handle on your view of things because of all of the publicity this case has gotten and how that might have affected you, and whether you hold some views strongly or not. And
I don't think I have any strong views one way or the other. I mean, I don't really think about it beyond, I've never thought about it till, on a daily basis till now.
Sure, okay. Back to the struggle idea. Are you convinced there was a struggle between Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman?
Yeah, I think there was some kind of struggle. It's that from what I've heard, it sounds like there was some kind of struggle. Whether there was or not, I guess you'd really have to see the evidence. It looks like there was, according to what information that was given to us as the general public. I mean, you would say that you would think that there was a struggle.
Have you any view or opinion as to who started it?
I have no idea. I wasn't there. I don't know who walked up to who.
Yes.
What point did they get face to face? I have no idea. I couldn't say.
Based upon what you've heard in the media and such, do you believe that George Zimmerman followed Trayvon Martin after being told not to?
That's what the phone, I guess, what I've heard, but what I've heard and what is factual, I guess, is at one point in time they got face to face. So I don't know who tracked down who, but at one point in time they must have gotten face to face for the tragedy that happened. So it wasn't something that happened like miles away from each other. So they had to have gotten face to face at one point in time, for the tragedy to happen. So how it happened and what led up to it, I couldn't say.
Sure. On the idea of George Zimmerman following Trayvon Martin, do you believe at some point in time that happened?
Objection, asked and answered.
I believe it's been asked and answered, but if you want to answer it one more time, you may.
He may have followed him. I have no idea. I would, according to what I've heard, I guess he may have followed him. At what distance, I have no idea.
Do you feel that as a result of that, because you think that may have happened or probably did happen, do you think that that means George Zimmerman did something wrong?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say that. It's hard to say. I mean, it depends on I mean, I
just-
really couldn't say. I mean, it's just the,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. It's
Right.
unfair to you. But what I'd like to focus on is what you think. When you heard all this stuff, how did it process through your brain, and what do you think now?
I don't know, at one point in time they got close. So I don't know what as far as the following went, I mean, how close it got, or, you know, or if the other person turned around, I have no idea, you know, from that point on. You know, I know that, I don't know, you know. It's
Okay.
like if I was, you know, a security guard, I don't know. It's hard for me to put myself in those shoes.
Based upon what you heard in the media, do you believe that George Zimmerman was a security guard?
I believe so. I thought he was. I mean, like I said, I didn't watch it on an everyday basis, so I'm sure that some of the stuff I heard and some of it, maybe some of the stuff that I know is not factual. You know, I'd have to like sit down and really absorb all the information to really make any real, you know, decisions on what I would think was the right thing or the wrong thing. Because I hadn't like sat down and really watched it. I like I said, it's like you watch it, you see what happened. It was a tragedy. And then you see like little bits of information going on, you know.
Well, based upon what you heard in the media, do you think now, maybe subject to change, but do you think now that he was a security guard for the community?
I thought he was some kind of security. I didn't like research any further on it, as I shouldn't have. So I didn't really go into any depth on, you know, in research of the case. I guess the less I know, the better till it's time to sit in the jury, right?
Okay. The evidence connected with the case that you may have heard in the news includes the 911 call, and that includes the voice of someone screaming. Did you hear that one?
I don't recall, no.
Do you have any information about that at all? That there's a recording connected with the case?
I knew there was a recording. I just don't know like the details on it.
Have you been involved in the news in the last couple of weeks where the case was mentioned?
No, not till I got summoned. And then from there on in, I wasn't able to watch the news from there on in.
Do you ever read the Orlando Sentinel newspaper?
No, I don't, honestly.
Do you subscribe to any newspapers?
No.
Is your news on this case limited to the sort of mainstream television stations you talked about?
Yeah, just the channels that I had mentioned. 2, 6, 9, 18, 35, 65. Those are the only channels I get.
Ah, okay. Is that from a basic cable?
I don't have cable.
Is it an antenna?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay, so you get whatever you can pull in from the rooftop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not satellite, it's just the...
No, it's just a digital antenna.
I think what probably threw us off was on the questionnaire when you were asked about whether or not you hold an opinion about Mr. Zimmerman's guilt or innocence.
Right.
And you indicated that you did.
I don't hold an opinion on the guilt or innocence. Obviously, I have an opinion on what may have led up to the tragedy, but I don't know what the circumstances were that brought brought the tragedy, on.
Okay, so what you do know about the case from the media is some of the things that may have led up to the point of whatever struggle you believe occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And based upon that information, do you think that Mr. Zimmerman is more or less likely to be guilty?
I would have to
I'm just
get more information, because I don't really think that I have enough information to make an assumption either way.
Okay. You really don't have an opinion on that?
Not on who's more at fault. No, I don't.
I know you mentioned that you have a lot of responsibilities at work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you have a lot of water cooler time, I suppose. But have you not talked with anybody in the office?
No.
About this case, or mentioned even that you have a summons for jury duty?
I had to let my employer know I had a summons. Mm-hmm.
Did you and he have any conversation at all about the case?
No.
No friends, social contacts that you've talked about the case in any way?
No.
And I know you have young children. I'm assuming you probably wouldn't talk with them about the case.
No.
But how about other family?
No.
Not even out-of-state relatives that say, hey, what's going on with that?
No, I don't even think my mother even knows I'm here. And that's I talk to her like every day on the way home from work.
Does she live out of the area?
No, she lives in Palm Bay.
All right. There was another question asking about whether being on the jury would be a special challenge because of the length of time that it could last 4 to 6 weeks, that could be sequestered.
Right.
Do you know what sequestered means?
No contact with anybody.
There might be some visitation type contact, but you don't go home at night, and you stay together as a jury pretty much from that point until the matter is resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing a little more about that, and considering the ages of your children and the extra responsibilities that your wife would have to take on, if you were asked that question now, whether or not the participation in this trial would cause an insurmountable hardship, would you still answer no, or would you check yes?
It would definitely cause some hardship, yeah. I mean, because of the different things as far as my wife would have to take on a lot of responsibilities, and she works a full-time job as well.
So you would no longer be available as a caretaker?
Yeah, it would be very, very difficult.
Would that concern you greatly?
Yeah.
Is it likely then your service here might actually be insurmountable in terms of the effect it would have on your family?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please remain seated. Counsel, when you're ready, approach. Thank you very much. If you'll follow Deputy Dents, thank you, sir. And we're going to take a 10-minute recess.